I've opted to do a second How Good Is It video today. I'm going to try to get through all 31 teams. I'm tracking which teams I've done and which ones I haven't. And I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, I haven't done a Bruins video. No, the funny thing is, I actually think that because I'm a fan of Boston, Dallas, and Vancouver, I might avoid doing videos of my favorite teams when I otherwise would. Because I don't want to appear to be giving teams I cheer for too much attention. And yet, Boston, I haven't done a video on Boston in a while. And I've got a video I'm trying to get ready where I rank all 31 goaltending tandems in the NHL, goaltending batteries, who's going to be... In some cases, I've got 3 goalies on the board, and that's just going to be a nightmare to figure out 1 through 31. I've refigured it out. I'll do it one last time, and I'll probably post it tomorrow, but I'm trying to give some daylight between my defenseman, center, and then this, because I know what's going to happen. We all know what's going to happen. People want my opinion, and then they go, I don't want it. The Bruins down the left side look solid. Marchand, DeBrusk, Heinen, Nordstrom, Bjork. But does Bjork make this lineup? Now, Bjork looked pretty good, and then he got hurt, and then he ended up out, and there's some debate about whether or not Bjork is going to be a top 6 guy, top 9 guy, or if he's going to end up in the AHL again this year. Joachim Nordstrom was brought in as a free agent, of course, likely to play a fourth-line role and to try to replace Zarnik. The problem is, Austin Zarnik played an amazing role for Boston this past year, and they also lost Riley Nash. And this is one of those things where you look and you see role players get replaced, and you go, well, he didn't score, he didn't make a big difference, so it's no big deal. But I've seen teams lose role players, third and fourth line guys, that it makes a huge difference later on in the game. If you have a third or a fourth line, you don't necessarily have a lot of faith in, so you have to double shift your first and second lines more. And that, over the period of an 82-game schedule, can wear people down. DeBrusk is a warrior. I'm not sure what his offensive upside is. I think we've started to see that. I don't think we've fully seen it. Danton Heinen, I think he's right about his peak. I honestly was surprised with how many points he put up this past year. I could see Bjork ending up being the third-line guy and Heinen getting moved down. Down the middle, Bergeron, Krejci, probably Donato. It could be Wagner. I'm hesitant to put Chris Wagner as third-line center and Corrali at fourth line. I would put probably Corrali ahead of Wagner, but again, it's a minor detail, but it could be a major difference. Forsback, Carlson, and Cave are there as depth guys if they need them. I think Donato will get a shot at the center spot. I think he may end up at the wing, but I think he'll get the shot at playing center. Because ideally, I think that's where Boston wants to see him play. Because Krejci isn't getting any younger, and neither is Bergeron. So even though Bergeron had an excellent year, he did have injury issues, and we may be at that point in his career where we start regularly seeing injury issues with both Bergeron and Krejci, which means that you have to have that center depth behind them, and they really don't. What would really help Boston would be if Koklachev is exactly what he was supposed to be, if they could talk him into coming back, but that's not likely. But Donato, Corrali, Forsback, Carlson, Cave, it's decent. They're not in Tampa territory. I did the Tampa How Good Is It today, and Boston's not in that territory. Down the right side, Pasternak, Backus, Wagner or Donato, Achari, and Solaric. Pasta's fantastic. You got Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand, one of the best first lines in the NHL. At different points last year, the best line in the NHL. But beyond that, Backus hasn't necessarily played up to his contract. I think there have been times where Boston would have listened to offers on David Backus. But I don't know how much depth scoring you're going to get on that right side if Donato ends up in the middle. And if Donato ends up on the right side, how much depth scoring do you have down the middle? So it's tricky. It's a good forward group. I think it's still likely a playoff forward group. But with the amount of youth you have combined with the amount of older players who may be moving out of their prime, it's really unpredictable. The blue line is unpredictable too. Chara had an amazing season. Chara defensively was on point, and he looked fantastic as opposed to the year before, where in the second half he just looked like he was done with hockey. And so he drank from the fountain of youth last summer, and it seems to have done him good. Can he do that again this summer? Maybe, but he's getting to that stage where you can't count on it. So you've got McAvoy, Krug, Moore, Grzelcyk, Carlo. They've still got Kevin Miller and Adam McQuaid. I don't think they're planning on playing 8 defensemen, so I'm wondering if one of them's going to get moved out, especially when you consider Vakanainen's been signed coming over, and he wants a job as well. So it's quite the logjam down on the blue line. And while I love Torrey Krug offensively, defensively, bit of a misadventure. On occasion, 5-on-5 makes me nervous when he doesn't have the puck and he's trying to chase it down. Moore or Carlo will end up being that fourth guy. With the amount of money they gave Moore, I'm thinking Moore's going to be the number 4 guy and Carlo could be 6. Brandon Carlo could also be a trade chip to help with forward depth. And I say that kind of wincing because I don't want Brandon Carlo to go anywhere. I also don't want Matt Grzelcyk to go anywhere. Grzelcyk had a fantastic season, solid postseason as well. Very underrated, under the radar kind of guy. I think he pushes Miller out. I think McQuaid's out too. I'm not sure what happens with this blue line because there are 8 NHL level defensemen, potentially 9 if they have a rookie coming in who's ready. Now the rookie you could send down to the American League and nobody's going to complain, but these 2 would have to clear waivers and they'd definitely be complaining. So even if you say, well, they'll hold 7 on their roster, there's still 1 that's probably going to go. In net, you've got Rask, you've got Halak, and Jaro Halak has to prove that he's still an NHL-level goaltender, or Boston has a problem, because their number 3 is likely Zane McIntyre, and I'm not a huge fan of McIntyre as a prospect, and I could be completely wrong. Goaltenders are tricky that way, but Rask's numbers were not fantastic this year. They were good. They were a little bit above average. He was a little above average in his save percentage. He played well, but not great. And honestly, when I look at the whole Boston roster, I see good, not necessarily great, not necessarily a team I look at and go, yeah, they're going to win a Stanley Cup. The pieces are there. I just wonder if, with the amount of youth that's on both the forward group and the blue line, so McAvoy is going to develop into, I really honestly think, a Norris-level defenseman. Charlie McAvoy came in so poised and so ready for the game last year, and this year as a rookie, blew everybody's doors off and was in the running, depending on who you ask, he was in the running for the Calder at one point this year. And I was kind of surprised that he wasn't one of the finalists, but, hey, he had an excellent season, and I think the bar for him is going to be high, and I think he'll even exceed it. I think he is exactly what Boston has needed on their blue line for a long time. Chara's been fantastic. Chara's been a Norris-level defenseman. McAvoy can do everything. And it's going to be, I think, crazy watching him develop. And I think that while Krug gets a lot of attention, I think McAvoy's going to end up being the number 1 point producer at some point too. He's so sound at what he does. What's going to happen with Boston? Rask is going to decide this a lot. Halak, how many starts he can get. If Halak isn't capable and they have to play Rask 60, 65 games or more, they're in trouble because Rask does tire out. So there are some concerns I have with this roster. There's a lot of depth, especially on this blue line, and I could see some of this depth being used to help up front a little bit. But again, some of this is just waiting for players to mature, and that can be difficult when you have a team that's coming out of its best season, best regular season in a while, and looks like they're right on the cusp of contending. I don't have Boston as a favorite in the East. I have them, of course, dropping to 4th in the division behind Florida because I think Florida looks pretty damn stacked. But they could be dangerous in the playoffs because of the fact they have so many young, solid players. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. This has been How Good Is It? Boston Bruins edition.